Let me quickly introduce my partner on the show to you. I have the pleasure of having with me on set this morning. Ayodele Odumade is based in the United Kingdom, is a sports journalist and also a consultant. So, Ayo, let me welcome you to the show this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah, I know you really don't want to talk about the girls, but you saw the clips.
Yes.
We thought the gap was closing at age grade level. But you know, you were commenting on some schoolboy errors in defense and some of the things you saw.
All the goals I saw from the brief highlights were, it could have been avoided. They're self-inflicted pain.
Yeah.
The first goal needlessly brought the player down. The second goal, the keeper came out and was indecisive. I thought the defender should have taken charge of the situation and cleared the ball. And had the keeper stayed on the line, she probably would have done that. With the third one, that was just too comical. They took a short corner. No one went to press them. Ball was then put into the box. The goalkeeper managed to spill it, and that's all she wrote.
Okay, all right. So, oh well, we're hoping to be able to get it right. Unfortunately, they don't have an opportunity to get that right in the competition. Well, let's take a quick look at the papers this morning. What are the papers saying? Of course, you would expect that stories about Nigeria's loss at the Women's World Cup will be topping the headlines. But let's quickly look at the papers and see what the papers have for us this Friday morning. And of course, we're going to be starting with Complete Sports. I'm very sure it's going to come up on your screen very soon. Complete Sports, talking about Keshi. It leads with Keshi in NFF hot water. This is something you said you wanted to comment on, and I don't know, when you see headlines like this with less than 3 months of the World Cup, it should worry you.
I think the Nigerian Football Federation, or whatever they're called these days, Nigerian Football Association, is one of the biggest jokes going in world football. They, even where there are no problems, they manage to bring problems. Nigeria is used to what I would call organized chaos.
Okay.
I mean, what has Keshi's coaching got to do with this? Why not just concentrate on the coaching bit? I think they're just looking for every excuse to frustrate this young gentleman who has been one of the best coaches Nigeria has had in recent times.
Okay.
Very patriotic gentleman,
Right.
Served his country both as a player and as a manager. I think their wish is that Keshi just disappears so that they can get in a foreign manager and share the money amongst themselves.
Okay.
That is not going to happen.
All right. Okay, let's look at the other stories in Complete Sports this Friday morning. As I said, once Eagles recall, Suarez to snub Madrid. Those are the stories. You have stories on David Beckham. On the top corner, you have United closing on Garay. Arsenal offer £2 million for Iranian Messi. Those are the stories in Complete Sports. We move on to the next paper this morning, and of course, is Sporting Life. And Sporting Life leads with a story that's similar to what we just talked about. Technical committee's query. NFA wants Keshi's reply. You have other stories. Emenike vows to keep scoring. That's on page 14. Maradona says Messi could leave Barcelona. Well, you probably might know what we don't know. So that's Sporting Life, the Friday edition. And Ian Achor trains with City Stars. That story is on page 14. FIFA Under 17 World Cup MVP, that's Kelechi Ian Achor. In your picture there, training with players from Manchester City. Okay, so we move on to the next paper for review, and that's Soccer Star, still talking about the query and other stories. Valdez out of the World Cup, that story is on page 4. We'll talk about all of that later on. Oseze awaits Eagles recall. That story is on page 12. We have 76 days to go to the World Cup. We'll also talk about that this morning as well. So we'll move on to the last paper for review this Friday morning. And okay, Sports Day, I'm leading with the story that Sweden snatched Nigerian striker and some of the other things we've read in the other papers. So grab a copy of the papers we've reviewed this morning to have a full gist of what we are talking about. Well, Ayo, let's talk about some things about the World Cup. 6 days to go, and there's this innovation about the vanishing spray. You know, referees, sometimes you try to set the line for a free kick. You know, some players step forward, he erodes all of that, and the vanishing spray comes into it now, and European referees are training on how to use this, and I think it's a good innovation for the World Cup.
Indeed, I believe it's already been tried at, you know, so the underage group tournaments.
Yes, yeah.
Very, very successful. I mean, it's simple. The referee counts 10 yards. The wall is supposed to move at 10 yards. Most of the time, we find that people encroach on this.
Yeah.
They, you know, they tend to
step forward.
You know, to sort of reduce the gap between the free kick taker and the wall. But now it'd be easy for everyone to see it, you know, including the referee and the audience.
And some seconds is still
and
there.
once you go past it, then the referee has to start issuing bookings.
Okay. Well, the next one we're going to, not something pleasing to the eye with less than 3 months to the World Cup, protests in Brazil, you know, and for the third time in recent times, protest, but heavy police presence. The protests were peaceful, but, you know, the Brazilians were complaining about, you know, the money being spent on the World Cup. Does that indicate, does that give you an indication of the mood in Brazil? You know, most of us feel that the people want to see the football, but these protests, I don't know what you read into it.
May I say categorically, I am totally in support of the people.
Protesting?
Of the protesters. The
Okay.
World Cup is merely a month. They're wasting so much money on the World Cup. Don't get me wrong, we're all lovers of football. 2 years' time, you also have the Olympic Games also going to Rio de Janeiro as well. That is going to take more of their money. Romario, who happens to be a member of parliament, happened to mention it and said, you know, that all this money being wasted, how does it account? I mean, how do you take care of people in the street? There's some people there who don't have 3 square meals.
Yeah.
There's some people who don't have the basic facilities and amenities. To the ordinary person, it's good. But to the people who live in Brazil, nobody can feel the pain like they are feeling this pain at the moment. It's a very sad situation. And I also think most of the time, FIFA hosts the World Cup for their own gain, purely for their gain.
Yeah.
Yes, there will be 1 or 2 legacies, but they don't actually do it in conjunction with the government. So it's like FIFA are running their own government. They go in there, they take what they want, and then they're out of there. And then what? What are the people left with?
All right, Aya, let me quickly ask you before we go into some other things. 76 days to go to the Mundial. How would you rate Brazil's readiness?
Are you talking in terms of the team?
No, not the team. In terms of hosting now, or Brazil's readiness.
Nothing new. I think Brazil are almost there. You will get the, you know, the doomsday people who would always come out.
Tell you Brazil will not be
tell you
ready.
Brazil will not be ready. Come up with negative stories. But although I was born in Europe, I've got news for people in Europe. The World Cup is not solely for Europe. If Europe had their way, they would have the World Cup in Europe every 4 years.
Yeah.
That's absolute nonsense. The World Cup has to go everywhere.
Geographical spread.
One of the main phrase of the World Cup is for the good of the game, and for the good of the game is to take it from coast to coast, to take it everywhere, to take it to all nations.
So it doesn't bother you if you're seeing protests,
I told you it bothers me, but not because I think it's a jeopardy. You know, it's going to jeopardize the World Cup. But let me ask you a question: where better do you think these protesters? Do you think if the World Cup was not being hosted in Brazil, do you think we would have heard these people? Not at all.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's a good platform for them to air their views.
All right.